Hey y'all, it's Rick here with Uncommon Communion. Glad that I have the opportunity to record a video for you tonight. Now, kind of like I did for Tuesday, I am doing again for Wednesday. And I'll explain why after we begin, as we always begin, by recognizing, realizing, affirming, and celebrating that we are always and everywhere in the holy presence of God and each other. So, yes, I am putting a video in place of a text post for I hope will be what will be the last time this week. It has been a busy week. Last night, like I mentioned, Monday night for Tuesday, what you saw on Tuesday, I mentioned that I stayed up later watching a few episodes of Andor, which is amazing, and I will talk more about that at some point. But tonight, you might guess by the outfit, the kit that I am wearing, I was at the third Columbus Crew soccer game that I have gone to in 8 days. And really just a week, Tuesday, Friday, and Tuesday. And this is amazing. It is so exciting. I am so grateful to my good friend Mark, who I have shown photos here. And Mark has season tickets and he has invited me to many games. Well, he's been out of town and he was generous enough to give me his really nice season tickets. Friday's game, I took my friend Kurt, told you about that in a video earlier. And tonight, I took my wife, Erin, to her first Columbus Crew Stadium, lower.com, new stadium game. And we had a good time. Weather was great. The Crew won. They're in a tournament. They might advance, hopefully, to the next round, which maybe will mean some more games to go to. We'll have to see. But nevertheless, I do apologize for missing another night of writing. I hope this suffices. That said, I do plan tomorrow night, Wednesday night. I hope to have a quieter evening. I will plan to do my music post for Thursday. I got a really good one for y'all. You are going to want to check that out because I discovered an artist by an algorithm on Monday, which was yesterday, because I'm recording this on Tuesday evening. I think you're really going to like this. I had not heard about this singer, this female singer, and she has quite a story. And I think her music is really compelling. So I'm going to talk about that on Thursday in my written music post, and then I'll be back on Friday for my regular multi-part written post. So again, y'all, I appreciate your understanding and your patience because life is full, is all I can say. I want to share with you today from Father Richard Rohr's writing this morning, this Tuesday. And I will put the link to this into the notes because I encourage you to not just check out this particular post, but to check out this whole series. Because what he is talking about in the series is Jesus's teachings as a wisdom teacher. And he says a few things that really resonate with me and I think are very helpful for my own spirituality as a planetary pilgrim on the way of Christ. And here's some of the things that he says. First of all, he talks about wisdom and how we can only receive a certain kind of wisdom from life, living life. And this wisdom really comes through unique liminal kind of in between spaces of our life, those transitionary, those significant moments. And he observes that there are certain, and this is a quote, that there are certain truths that can be known only if we are sufficiently emptied, sufficiently ready, sufficiently confused, or sufficiently destabilized, right? Emptied, ready, confused, destabilized. Now, think about those words for a moment, right? Most traditional Christianity, and I would even say most, Christianity resist those things, right? It says that, well, God is with us and we are with God when things are the opposite, when things are full, when things are just sort of in when we're resistant, perhaps, when we're certain, opposite of confused, right? And when we are stable. Now, the beauty is that God is present through all of those things. God is always present, right? That's what we affirm at the beginning of these conversations. But what Father Richard is saying is that there are certain wisdom, depth wisdom, that we can only truly know during those periods, right? During those periods of confusion or destabilization or emptiness and grief and loss and suffering and difficulty and challenge are all those types of moments. And yet we resist those so very much. He goes on to talk about Jesus. And again, the theme this week, every week he has a theme. The theme this week is Jesus as a wisdom teacher. And he says this, he says, Jesus as a teacher largely talked about what was real and what was unreal, what was temporary and what would last, and therefore how we should live inside of reality. In 1,000 ways, Jesus was saying that God comes to us disguised as our life. What a great line. God comes to us disguised as our life, right? And it's all in being present to reality. And that is why living in a fantasy, living in a deception, living in a distraction is so soul killing. And I mean that in the most direct way possible, because what enlivens our soul is when we are real. And yet we avoid it so much. And even so much of our religious tradition avoids that, right? Because somehow it's believed that, that it's, God and things of the spirit are, somehow ethereal and, gossamer and, fluffy, and they don't have edges and challenges. Well, that's not the case. That's not what Jesus was talking about. A little bit more here, and then we'll wrap up with a prayer. He talks about the concrete teaching style of Jesus. And Father Richard says, Jesus teaches in the temple several times, formal teaching. But most of his teaching involves walking with people on the streets, out into the desert, and often into nature. Jesus' examples comes from the things he sees around him: birds, flowers, animals, clouds, landlords and tenants, little children, women baking and sweeping. I mean, you could just imagine Jesus pointing these things out. We see that in that wonderful little story about the two people in the temple, the woman, who gives everything. Jesus points that out. And then the sinner, the Pharisee, the religious leader who, comes in front of God with all this, hubris. I mean, Jesus is pointing these things out. He's saying, look over there, look at that, right? He's pointing at life. And as we look at our life through those eyes, those lenses that Jesus shows us how to see through, we can do the same. And lastly, Father Richard says this, he says, yet it was Jesus's concrete examples that broke people through to the universal light, particulars, which seem to most open us up to universals, which is what poets have always understood, right? When we look at anything deeply, when we love in any way, when we lean into the connections that are among everything, those specific things, we are seeing everything, right? We are seeing the universal. When we look at a seed, or when we eat an apple, right, and really appreciate that, we are tapping into the fruit that is everything, right? And when we give gratitude for that, we can give gratitude for the all, right? So lots to think about, lots to consider as we go through our life, as you and I go through our life on this Wednesday, in August, right? Maybe there will be incredible things that you or I encounter. Maybe, we as a country, there will be something remarkable tomorrow. Who knows, right? Probably not, but there might be. But nevertheless, there will be lots of little simple things that can be reflections and pathways to experiencing the fullness of God. So I want to end with a reading that I also came across today, and this is from the Meister Eckhart book that I have quoted from. It's a very simple little prayer. I think it has some deep mystical possibilities for us. And Meister Eckhart says this: nothing can divide you from the way that you and God are together. You must remember that you are one in the one in whom there is only one. You and I are one in the one, capital O, in whom there is only one. Again, y'all, I appreciate your understanding, appreciate your support. Please share this with others. If you are not yet subscribed, please consider subscribing, becoming a paid subscriber if you would like. I deeply appreciate that as well. And as always, y'all, blessing and good, be gentle, be well.